Welcome to the People's Colloquy, the podcast that aims to pierce through the fog around us with the high beam of good conversation. My name is Mtutuo Anthony Ntapo, and I'm here with my guy, Frank.
No, I don't use that name, but practice makes perfect. The guy just flows through that introduction. Tabo.
And the good man Bulls is with us.
Yeah, Bulls only.
One time.
That's it.
Today, we are going to go into a big conversation, something which is important to all of us living in this country, which is what is going on with the national shutdown. We had national shutdown recently. The EFF put their resources together to close the country down. Do you guys feel it was effective, Tabo?
It feels painful when you say resources. Human resources.
Yeah, resource.
Like bad, skipa,
Humans.
Human resource. Like it's the literal definition of human resources. Listen, it's political, man. I'll let it pass for now. Let me think more about it. I want to hear Bull's thoughts.
Yeah, okay.
Never short on words.
To be honest, just from what I could gather from the whole movement, and obviously I'm not going to sit here and act like I know every single win or loss that they made. But to me, the biggest win was the fact that whenever the EFF mentioned anything about a shutdown or a march, South Africans, they see red. They see chaos, they see looting, they see all this.
The red scare.
And this time, generally speaking, from all the reports, is that there were very little incidences. I know that's obviously debatable, but there were very little incidences. Let's be real. If there were like crazy incidences, we would have known about it. And what I think that would be EFF's biggest win from this shutdown, because then it's giving the idea that actually maybe the EFF can actually do things without sort of I mean, they don't necessarily introduce the problems with their marches, the violence, etc., but the perception is that they do. And this time, not a single thing happened. It went off without a hitch. And it gives them that credibility among people that actually maybe they're not out here to pillage our our country, because it really is hear me out, it really is the perception in the country. You know what I'm saying? And we can throw all sorts of terms around, like better blacks and whatnot. But to be honest with you, if you are just a neutral individual looking at that situation, you're thinking to yourself, actually, they pulled it off and people didn't get hurt. Well, then I suppose that gives them a lot of credibility.
But the whole scare as well, it comes from our integration process as South Africans. From different black, white, colored, Indian, whatever. Up until 94, everything was either communism or capitalism. Red always used to go with what? That's why the red scare. And the things that the man says, Malema, the white people that taught us at school, that literally raised us away from our parents, that's why we'll be like, there's going to be a lot of chaos happening there.
I get you, right?
But they proved it.
To me, what I saw
There's no chaos
is the result of a leadership that has actually got its hands on the wheel.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
They are in control of what's going on.
Right.
And they are able to actually manage their people effectively, because we can't help but remember that the looting was an ANC affair.
Absolutely.
It was. The July thing
People
was
forget
an
that. People forget that.
It was an ANC fight.
It was an in-fight that went wrong. I mean, they pulled the courts into their issues again. Is it the political party?
We're not saying it in so many words, but we know why that kicked off. You know what I'm saying?
Can you stay away from it?
And I would rather stay away from
that. July 2021 was a very interesting part of our lives. So
correct, but you're absolutely right, Ntutu, because you know, this country, the one thing that it lacks the most is a chronic lack of leadership, especially in the public spaces.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Of course, we're not going to mention the corporates because the corporates have their structures and they have their bonus structures as well, which keeps people in line.
Structures and structures.
But when you are in the public space, people are not incentivized to behave.
I can ask you a question then, Bruce.
You know,
one way or the other, even if you were to compare it in a corporate space, then Malema is the CEO in a corporate space, right? So he's the man behind it. He's the face behind it. Right. He's the leader of the EFF.
Right. EFF Inc.
I don't want to talk about
it. No, yeah.
It's not Inc. It's a political party. Yes. It's an organization.
Right.
It's an organization. Fighters. You know. Is that the kind of leadership that we are ready for? Is that the kind of leadership that we want? Is that the kind of leadership that is supposed to steer us in the right direction? What is it? How do you view it? Because you spoke about leadership.
Yeah, I mean, how I view the EFF leadership is that I think
not the EFF leadership.
The party
Malema leads the EFF,
right?
And the EFF led the national shutdown, and it was led by Malema.
Malema, yes.
So he's the general.
Right.
He's a war's army general.
Right.
Okay.
I would prefer him in that space as opposed to running the country, but to be honest, what the EFF leadership are actually displaying is maturity. I feel the party is young, and it's young at heart. You know, when you look at your Mbusenis and a couple of other interesting individuals that, ironically, I used to share campus.
Very few shiny bald heads up in there.
Yes.
Have you seen the ANC pictures when they're all walking? It's just like a sea.
Right. But I mean,
the young guys who are trying to do things.
Right. Yeah. And they would have been the young guys that were actually going to take over from the old guard at the ANC now, because I can safely tell you at varsity, I was part of the youth league that was led by Museni and the likes. You know what I'm saying? Until obviously at some point down the line they defected to the EFF. So all these guys, Floyd Shivambu, Museni, they all ex-ANC youth league guys. You know, don't get that confused. You know, they are the splinter that you know became what it is today. But I personally think it's kudos to them, you know, because they are clearly playing the game. They understand. They remind me of a DA. You know, maybe 15 years ago. 15. Maybe 15 years ago. And hear me out. I'm not saying DA in terms of policy, in terms of who they are, but in terms of where the party was. And now they're trying to grow and of course become a party of prominence in the country. So they're doing all the right things. They're saying all the right things. But of course, you know, the proof will always be in the pudding. Once they actually get into these leadership roles, how are they actually going to behave? Are they going to replicate the nonsense that we see now? Or are they going to then kick on, do the right thing, and they become, the next best thing to come out of South Africa?
I think Floyd is our guy.
Floyd is our guy. When you look at the dynamics that we find ourselves in, you know, you mentioned the DA. What we are sitting in is a situation where neoliberal capitalism has taken over everything and how everything operates on a global scale down to on a scale provincially. We want to look at federalism as a discussion point. And a big part of that is, look, what is federalism and how will that be able to help us to break away from a neoliberal ideal? Because ultimately that's the enemy, that way of thinking and that way of operating and managing the resources around us. How does federalism help us move in that direction? Any thoughts, Pauls?
My little understanding of federalism, right? And I'm not going to sit here and act like an expert in the conversation, right? But I'm just gonna give you my opinion. Federalism would only work if the state itself, as in the mother body, is strong.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Strong in different departments, have the ability and the manpower to quell any potential coup d'etats, so to speak. Do you know what I'm saying? From any federal state that feels like they can go on and do it without you, i.e. Western Cape, right?
Yes.
So it can work, but what I'm worried about the most is that the current state is so dysfunctional. They're so bribable, they're so corruptible that you could end up with a country that's split in three. You just don't know. Yeah. They could start forming alliances with different states, and they become, we want to be East South Africa versus West South Africa. Then you have a polarization on that level as well. Honestly, for me, we're not ready for federalism. Even though we have displayed federalism in this country before, the Bantustan really is it's like the most it's the most horrible version of federalism, right? Where our people were, exposed to having dompasses and had to explain why they're in a certain province if they're from a different province, etc., etc. It really limited the movement of people.
Yeah.
And for that reason, even the whole urbanization conversation then comes in, that South Africa didn't fully experience urbanization because of the restrictions that were set in the beginning with segregation, etc.
These things take time to grow.
Right. But, okay, my point is, we're not ready for it because I strongly believe that in order for federalism to work, you need a very strong state. You see that in America, for instance. It's a great example with all their federal states, but they all know who the big daddy is. You know what I mean?
Tabo? Hey, with
the government part, like the main government part, I'm with them. It has to be strong. I come on remote room, the parents have to be strong. Are we ready for a federal state? Can we be one? I'm not sure, man. It's I hate using corruption as a word. I hate saying corruption because it's said so much. But if you go federal, what do we do with the politics that we have before I answer? The partisanship that we have in South Africa now, how many political parties do we have? If we go federal, what do we do with that?
Right.
Because they all have heavy voter bases. Like IFE, for instance, they'll have it in KZN. I'll make an example. What do we do with the partisanship before we even get there? Listen, the DA guys, they can say they want free Cape Town or whatever, free Western Cape, whatever the thing that they want.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got their voter base there. And
my
does it become political? Does it become apolitical? Does it become merit-based? What do we do with all of that?
My thoughts on that is probably linked to the article that Boholi sent us today, the man behind the camera today. He sent us a document, and the document outlines a lot about federalism. And one of the main things that I picked up from that is the big question, which is who benefits?
The benefit.
Who benefits at the end of the day?
Where and when?
When things come down to it. Are we now going to be dividing up the cake some more? Is this a part to growing a bigger cake? The people who are suffering the most, what changes for them? Because what we need to be doing is to be moving forward and moving upwards.
Right.
On a slippery, icy hill.
Resilience.
Is this not a sideward step? Is this not...
I like what you said there. Because when you look at a province like the Western Cape, for instance, I recently traveled through the Garden Route. Hey, man, stuff works there. It really works.
Unfortunately.
Do you get me? Stuff really works. If I don't know how to explain it, but it works. But who does it benefit? Because when you're driving from Stellenbosch into Cape Town, the first thing you're probably going to see is Khayelitsha.
Yeah.
And Khayelitsha is literally like a how do we put it? It is a squatter camp on the beach, basically.
So,
or a squatter camp with a ocean view. Now, I was sitting there thinking, wow, this would be an incredible property development opportunity, but it's shacks, bro. What does that tell you about that government of the day there? You know, will federalism really benefit those folks?
That's what I was
or will it
asking
be
about.
worse for them?
That's what I was asking about the partisanship of us. Like the DA. Okay, the ANC have chosen that they're going to live on chaos. The DA have chosen that they're going to represent the people that they choose to represent, which is those white people, right? I'm sorry. And all the other political parties is just a bit of, there and there. So the two biggest political parties, whom would be the major players should this decision be made? Who benefits?
Is it perhaps
because remember the ANC can come and say, hey, South Africa, you see that they put you in Khayelitsha, so it can't be a federal state if they don't want it. The DA will continue keeping you there.
Yeah.
But the DA will come and say, but you guys have to pay for private security. We'll make it that you don't pay for private security, but they won't say that they're taking the police from Emakasi, flooding them into the towns and cities to keep it safe.
Exactly. And
so who benefits?
And to
the
be
main
honest
question on the whole thing, who benefits? We need to look at it from that point. Who benefits with the current partisanship that we have?
To be honest with you, Tabo, when using that example, I don't see how a federal state will actually help the people of Khayelitsha.
What about any black person in South Africa?
Or even the Cape Flats, because these are some of the most dangerous places that's supposed to be in the best running province. Who does the federalism really? Do you give them more power now
to do worse?
To do worse or to do better? That's why it goes back to my argument.
Then what happens? You get the ANC where someone is a provincial chairperson of the ANC and is the premier. So in a federal state, that person would be the premier forever.
But
because only he can fire himself. No one can fire him.
Let's consider the US, right? The US has gone through a deindustrialization over the last decades.
But Anthony, can I just interject?
And things are falling apart just as badly as other places in this country.
Absolutely. In fact, they were going to fall harder than everyone else.
Can I just interject for a moment? Right?
Yeah.
The US was started from day one
as a federal state.
Yeah,
true.
So
we've had
it's the United States of
America. We've had confusion whereby South Africa has been operating probably at 70-30, federal and unitary, whatever it's called, since 1994.
Now,
so let's not compare us to the US. We can take it as an example or something to look at. We can take Germany as something to look at. We can take Russia as something to look at. China, on all these other countries, Canada. But let's not.
I don't see,
because they started all on that footing.
I don't see the advantage of moving in that direction. Is what I'm trying to say. I don't see. Okay, fine. Today it's like this. Tomorrow you create a federal state, and then you've got something incredible afterwards.
I mean, guys.
Much like Germany, when Germany unified. The day before, you had a bunch of different peoples organized in different ways. The day afterwards, you had the strongest land power. What does federalism do? And so
because to me, with how South Africa is right now, federalism would sound a lot more like giving certain people what they want.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, then that obviously locks those people away from all the nonsense which we have the powers to keep it away now.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that does not solve South Africa's problem. Because if South Africa can't do simple things like make sure they safeguard whistleblowers.
Yeah.
If whistleblowers are getting shot and killed on a busy highway, bro, you still have big problems before you can even think about federalism.
True.
Yeah.
Because we go back to the original statement. The state needs to be super strong, powerful, all-knowing, you know what I'm saying? So that they can exert that power on everyone else, Because essentially what are you going to have? You're going to have many chiefs there, right? In that space. and those chiefs can talk to other chiefs, and they can pull resources together and say, actually, we don't need these guys.
Yeah.
Let's go in. Let's bomb the hell out of them, and then keep what we keep.
That's a beautiful concept applying to South Africa. It started in '94.
Question from the gallery.
What's up?
What would that have looked like, Tabo, in 1994?
What would it look like? I wouldn't have left Northwest. I was still living in Blackstop. I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have been a migrant worker in Gauteng. So.
No. I think
in a perfect world.
To be honest with you, I see what you're saying, nah? But for me, honestly, the way this country was, with the advent of democracy, the Rainbow Nation, the idea was fantastic.
Yeah.
The idea was very noble, but the execution was zero. It was negative. Do you get me? To the point where it's now this big facade that was just really behind this facade was a structure that was very apartheid-like, and it still is, right? And now, if anything, it's legitimized this background to the point where it's now normal life to have income disparity between white and black people, and that's growing daily, by the way, right?
Look, on that, meetings. On that, my perspective is about looking back. Part of what we wanted to discuss as well today was about the question of a failed state, right? When I think about a failed state or a failing state that we find ourselves in, I consider that wherever we are now, it's on a better path than we were before, because we were utterly failed. We were a failed state in the past already. If you look at 90% of the people in the country and you consider them to be human refuse, non-human in fact.
South Africa was a resort, man.
That's already a failed state. So we're starting from a really bad position if we look at the greater scheme of things. To look at the country now and say it's a failed state would be a bourgeois interpretation.
Right. Because a failed state,
it's you're not getting water, you're not getting electricity.
If you've traveled to the Congo,
you're saying it's a failed state.
If you've traveled to the Congo, you'll know what a failed state is.
ABSA's making record profits this year.
Right.
That's what they posted in that same failed state.
But you see, even on that article as well, it speaks to the lack of trust because of the corruption not only in government but in the private sector as well.
Oh, for sure.
The private sector
corruption.
So
in fact, the private sector corruption, the public sector corruption.
If a company as big as ABSA in South Africa makes record profits and our numbers of unemployment are going down, that's corruption.
Who benefits?
It's unethical. It's our money, but they're not reinvesting it back in the country. It's unethical. So it goes back to that.
But the ANC have built that platform for them. They have built that platform. They are the masters.
So you see, we're still living in a resort. Apartheid was a resort, right? Where people were in nice places and black people were outside. That's how resort works. When you go to a resort, there's always a village, beautiful resort. You live there. The people that save you there are people from there. Like it's So how do you bring that together? How do you build one culture, unison? How do you bring it back?
Like I said,
make it this beautiful thing.
Tabo, like I said, the initial idea of the Rainbow Nation was a good one, so long as the objectives of the Rainbow Nation were going to be satisfied.
So if you're saying the initial idea was a good one, then that means maybe we are not there yet. Or either it totally failed psychologically and sociologically. It's either we're still early to get to where we want to go to,
right?
Or it failed.
Well, basically, the Israelites have started rejoicing a statue as opposed to believing in God. That's where we are in South Africa. So I get what you're saying about that. Why I'm saying that is that, in South Africa, white people have such a vested interest in this country that they are South African, my friend. Whether you like it or not, they are South African. Yeah. So it won't help you to say, we're going to drive you to the ocean. No. You're driving your own people to the ocean. Do you get me?
Exactly.
But there needs to be a level of accountability in this country that needs to take place, not just from the ANC and the politicians, right? Yeah, but also from the civil society itself. It needs to be honest with itself and say, okay, guys, here we messed up. And this was the result, the end result. We are proposing X to bring this back on side. Do you get me?
Yeah.
But such a polarization within civil society in South Africa, where national shutdown happens, and in WhatsApps of our more light-skinned folk, it is cry bloody murder. Do you get me? The country's going down. They're gonna burn everything, which is absolutely nonsense, bro. Because most South Africans don't even have the resources to actually burn the country properly. And literally, we're talking about burning the country now. They don't even have the money to do it. You know what I'm saying? So hear me out. Let me finish, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. For me, at civil society level, people need to start becoming honest with themselves. This country has a big problem with transformation.
So do you understand? So do you agree that the Rainbow Nation thing is a failed project?
It is an absolutely failed project. Okay. It was a great idea.
It was an idea.
But in operation, it dismally
failed. That's what I'm saying.
So
that's what I'm saying. The reason we're in the position that we're in, that's my view, right?
Right.
Each and every, everything in South Africa, politicians, everything, political party, might be DA, ANC, EFF, whatever. We have a lot of meetings.
Oh,
we talk a lot.
This is the
if you want to change, hey Anthony, we need to get a new boom mic. Let's set up a meeting on the 17th of June so that we can all vote and be all merry. Yeah. And then so that's why nothing ever gets sorted out.
Are you saying South Africa is too democratic? Is that what you're saying?
But with democracy comes responsibility.
Of course, yes, I agree.
So they're too democratic, but they failed it because they're not responsible.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We want the mic at the end of the day. We want the good outcomes.
Thank you.
So it's with so much in between, adding another layer to Federalism.
And you create room for all the wrong things that can happen.
More spaces, more gaps.
You create room.
And you see, that's my problem with federalism at this juncture of where South Africa is. It will allow for all the people doing the wrong things to hide their things even better now. Nicely, with all the powers and the police force to help.
I'm the Premier of Gauteng. I've got my own bank, Central Bank of Gauteng. Come on.
Yeah.
Or I'm the Premier of whatever. So this guy's got a point, Chief. And I think this should be the main point on anything. Should IFP starts the talks again, or DA, all these parties that are interested in it. Are we strong enough for it? What do we need?
And none of these parties are unified, really.
None of them. Yeah. Bro, I remember, I think the talking points that Mahoney sent us, and he referred to coalitions, and if that's the way forward. Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm very disappointed with how things have gone in that instance. Because I thought sanity would prevail. You know what I'm saying? Okay, guys, we hate each other. I get it. But let's just make this thing work. Because our country then is just going to go to the pits, which is where we are, by the way. We are at the pit. We're just not inside the pit. But
how do you make it work in a democracy where when you look at someone first, you don't look at the person as a South African, you look at him as white, Zulu, Xhosa, Sotho.
Right.
South African.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's the biggest problem.
And as a white person, you might just say, this young one is a member of EFF. So that thing goes all the way.
Which comes with the negative connotation.
That's why they can come together. They know what they want. They know what is needed. They all know what is needed. But the issue is they don't trust each other. And they don't trust each other not necessarily on what has happened, but
and it's not necessarily
who you are. Look at what EFF did in KZN. EFF went into coalition with IFP, right? And then they got out of the coalition. I forgot that municipality. They got out of the coalition. After getting out of the coalition, Marshal Dlamini, the General Secretary, goes on spazzing on, like, what do you call them? What the journalists and stuff? Press releases or whatever. Talking about how IFP used to work with the party government, how IFP was part of the third force, all of that. But a day ago, they were part of the coalition. Now he talks about them because they just left the coalition and those are their reasons. So didn't they know all along?
Now it's an issue. No, look, I think the biggest problem is that the parties, how they're actually going to be able to work together effectively if so much of the problem comes from their own infighting. And it's not even a matter of, hey, this is an ideological warfare, and no, we want to go more to the left and we want to go more to the right, and there's this kind of discussion about the direction ideologically. No, they're not fighting over that.
They're fighting,
they're not fighting over that.
They're fighting for power.
They're fighting for money and power.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And absolutely. That's and
yeah, I mean, you know, you're absolutely right. I mean, stomach, what they call it, politics of the stomach, is predominant in South Africa. And that's unfortunate. When you see all the people in power.
So you see how the federal state fails?
Maybe if you look at their backgrounds, you see that, they kind of have to do that.
All right. So
but I think, just last thing, I think when answering the federalism conversation, we've seen federalism in South Africa, and it was under a very ruthless government. Right? We need that level of ruthlessness, but not towards its own people.
Not to destroy.
Right. Not to destroy it, but to be better. For federalism to actually make sense in South Africa. Otherwise, I promise you, you're going to have internal wars in South Africa. If we implement federalism now as the way things are, with the lack of leadership you have at the top, we're going to see problems.
No, look,
we're going to be within problems.
To fix ourselves and put ourselves in a position to consider federalism, we'd have to make what we currently have work.
Exactly.
And once it works, you would then say, why should we federalize? You know? So for me, I don't want a federal stomach.
You want a full one?
I want a full stomach.
I mean, imagine a situation now. Let me give you an example.
Hungry function.
And it's quite a crass example, right?
Yeah.
You know, in South Africa, we have these little pockets of problems where they'll have some, like for instance, in the Eastern Cape, it's well documented. I'm not talking crap, right? The indabas of Twala, Nana, you know, young girls getting kidnapped, forced into marriage, impregnated way too early. And imagine now that was a federal state, and in that federal state they decided that abortion was illegal. Imagine the kind of calamity.
But remember what we say, right? Democracy and freedom comes with responsibility. So when you make the decision, whatever decisions that you make in life, even as a person, everything that comes after it, you have to be ready for it.
What I'm saying
is... So in closing, now from my side, I hear what you're saying, I love federalism. I would love this country to be a federal country. So let's say, ANC did the biggest and blew it ever.
Yes.
ANC was supposed to have been the greatest political party
in
the
history of mankind, absolutely.
And from they've taken that advantage, and equally,
and they dropped it.
Equally, like us as South Africans today, when you wake up, like that's why such conversations are very important. When you open your door in the morning, you have an opportunity to be great. There's so much mess that is happening that you can fix.
So much opportunity.
So ANC inherited a mess that they could have easily fixed then, but they created a mess. What they say is, close the stitch in line to save in time to save line.
Stitch in time.
Yeah, something along those lines. So they did that. So
it's crochet.
And the thing is, ANC just needed to take one decision.
Yeah.
To set this country on the right course. The biggest or the first well-known corruption case that we ever had, the arms deal thing, was supposed to have been dealt with immediately when it happened. people that were involved in it were supposed to have been dealt with. So that each and every South African, even a child, knows that when he steals something,
there's problems, consequences.
There's consequences. But now there's no consequences.
Correct. And that's filtered into the rest of society.
And it goes all the way.
It's filtered into the rest of society.
There's cool.
I mean, we complain about the crime in this country, but bro, if you're watching television and all you see is crime, and that's supposed to be like a government program, right? All you see is crime. You're gonna be like, I'm gonna do my own.
I know where I am.
Yeah,
I know where I am.
It's the best country.
Oh,
so that's why. What's that guy Kretcher? He chose South Africa out of all these countries.
What's he? Nah.
He was like, nah, South Africa, I'm with you, man.
No, you guys. But federal state is a possibility.
It's possible. Is it great for everybody? Time will tell. And with that, I would like to say thank you so much for joining us on the People's Colloquy today. If you've made it this far, we appreciate you. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share. Cheerio.
Bye bye.